It is time for StreetWise with former chief of the New York City Sheriff's Department, former chief of the Seagate Police Department, retired New York City detective, Time Warner Public Access Media Award, Joe Franklin Super Excellence in Broadcasting Memory Lane Award, New York Veteran Police Association StreetWise Productions, host of StreetWise, Mr. Lou Telano.
Good evening and welcome back to StreetWise. I'm just hanging in there a moment, waiting for my guest, but until he comes on, he's has a little issue, and he'll be calling again in a moment. But if you want to listen and watch the show, it'll definitely be on YouTube later on after the show, and on Strong Island TV at right here on Long Island. Of course, you can watch StreetWise. So, look, I'm going to talk about a couple of things before my guest calls in, and we were going to discuss something new, something different, something that you haven't heard about in quite a while, and that's Donald Trump. So, anyway, I wanted to talk to my guest, who's a well-known political analysis, African-American gentleman, and he's been on many of the talk shows, and he analyzes what's going on in the country, and especially the perspective in regard to the black community. But I don't know what happened to him. Delroy Murdock, we were supposed to discuss a bunch of things. Oh, my God, he's calling me on my cell. What do we do?
Call him and let him know.
Can you call on the station number? It's the station number. Yes, correct. All righty? Okay, thanks. No, just call. I already introduced you, but just call in. Yes, thank you. He said he was trying.
Does he have the right number? We don't have the...
Give me the 945-9099.
516-945-9099.
Yeah.
I haven't received anything.
Are we on now? Or did you cut it off? We're on.
Yeah.
We're on. Well, you and I talking, so people are going to see us on the YouTube having a conversation. Jason, my chief engineer. Okay.
Yes, Chief.
Listen, my guest, Delroy Murdock, is having a little problem, so try to bear with us, and he should call in. I don't know. In fact, he just called me on my cell phone, and I don't want to lose him because we have so many interesting things to talk about. So don't know what happened. He's still trying to call in, Jason. Okay.
We could try. No.
Folks, bearing what happens, in the in this world of technology. So I don't want to lose him. So he's calling me now. We're just trying to make a connection. But I do want to talk about some of the things in regard to the black community and the black perspective in regard to Donald Trump, because they've been calling him a racist. Obviously, they went into collusion, and now they're talking about Turkey and Syria, and the impeachment obviously is one of the things they want to talk about, and they want to enforce. I don't know why, folks. Please hang in, and this is an interesting show, and I really don't want to lose my guests. Okay. Oh well. Okay, folks. I guess I'm going to have to see what happens, because he's been trying to call in, and I don't know. He's having technical problems. I don't know. But anyway, I'll talk about some of the things that are going on in New York until my guest comes on. This is the first time in history I've seen law enforcement suing law enforcement. You got the Tish James, who's the New York State Attorney General, suing ICE. So, ICE, because they're locking up criminal aliens in different locations. So she's suing them. That's never happened before. So I got to get to my guest. I don't know why he's calling me. I hate to do this, especially on we're going to be on the YouTube, and if you're listening, my guess, it's 516-945-9099. So that's correct. My chief engineer, but I don't know. I don't know. He's calling me. He's trying to get through. So I got to apologize. I don't want to talk about other things until he gets through, and I just don't know what's going on there. And it's a little embarrassing, I guess, to do a show. And my guest is trying to call in, and I'm trying to pick it up, and he cannot get through. So I don't even want to introduce him until he calls in, folks. That's how important this guest is. You know, I was going to touch on some of the different things that's going on in the city, and I was going to do that after my guest after I finish interviewing him. But I guess I'll have to start talking about it now until he reaches us. I don't know why he's not getting through. But anyway, I was talking about Tish James. Tish James is the new New York State Attorney General. Well, she's supposed to represent law enforcement. She's supposed to represent the victims and the people and taxpayers and citizens of the city and state of New York. So what she did, she filed a suit. And by the way, who else joined the suit with her against ICE in regard to locking up illegal criminal aliens is the Kings County, that's Brooklyn, District Attorney, Eric Gonzalez. So you have two law enforcement, high-ranking officials suing a law enforcement agency. It's just, folks, I keep repetition, I say mind-boggling, but it's mind-boggling because they're angry that we are, I say we, the government, ICE, immigration enforcement is locking up criminal aliens. It's just, I don't know where we're going with this. This is the first time, and we seem to be, and especially the Democrats. By the way, they are Democrats. They're in on the Democratic line. And speaking of Democrats, you know, one of their candidates had Betro, who's running for on the Democratic presidential primary, was asked a question about the what would he do with the tax-exempt status of churches and synagogues and any house of worship in regard to their tax-free not-for-profit benefit that they get if they don't recognize same-sex marriage. And he said he would discontinue it. You imagine that? So how do you imagine St. Patrick's Cathedral taking away their tax-free, not-for-profit status because they refuse to conduct same-sex marriages? Now, in fact, I'm not connected to, well, obviously I do go to church, but as far as I'm concerned, same-sex marriage is a sin. You know, the Bible starts off with Adam and Eve, not Adam and Adam, or Eve and Mary. So, but that's another story, as they say. But obviously, I don't care what people do. You know, but how do you expect a church or a synagogue, a shul, or a Protestant mission to conduct same-sex marriages? It's against the religion. You know, it's like telling them, especially Christian and Orthodox Jews, we're not going to contribute or we're not going to support you if you don't support abortion. That's exactly what they're saying. This is the Democratic ideology today. You know, it's bad enough they're going socialism. It's bad enough they're being outright communist. Now but I have on Twitter, if you look at it, I'm saying they're attacking God. They're so desperate that they're attacking religion. These liberal Democrats. It's just and they want to be president of the United States of America. So those are issues, and they are concerned. And folks, I hate to interrupt this great conversation that I'm having with myself, but I do have to get my guest on. He's an important gentleman, and I don't know why he's having some kind of issues, but he is, and I want to talk with him about some important issues and concerns about this political race that we're having for 220 with Donald Trump and whomever on the Democratic line runs against him. So he's an important guest, but he is having some, I guess, some difficulties electronically, I guess, trying to reach the station. But I know because he is sending me on my iPhone trying to get through, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure what it is. Okay, so I'll jump back to New York City, which is pretty a topic, and you've heard this and you've seen it, and a lot of the politicians, and usually Democrats, and most times it is Democrats, in regard to prison reform. One of the things they think prison reform is going to do in New York City is closing Rikers Island. Now, you close Rikers Island, what do we do with these people? Let them out? So I think, and I say this, and I've said this on social media, the people that are supporting closing Rikers Island they actually don't care where these people go who are incarcerated, and they're really not concerned about it. So anyway, if we close Rikers Island, they're talking about opening up a jail in every borough in the city of New York. I don't know if these people are around. Maybe they weren't born, but that's the way the New York City prison system was originally. When it originated, I should say, in the 5 boroughs of the city of New York, we had a jail in every single borough. But it was an eyesore. It was a problem. So the same political people who are speaking now, the same party, said, look, we've got to get the jails out of our communities. I'll give you an example. The Bronx jail was next to Yankee Stadium. So a visiting house was in the evening. So when there were night games at the visiting house for the prison, the Bronx House of Detention for men, people coming out of night games, going to their cars, or or parking their cars to go to a night game in Yankee Stadium, were being mugged, folks even raped and assaulted by families and friends of visitors who are visiting the inmates in the prison. Because what do you think? Do you think these how do I say this? They're not great people. Certain groups are just bad people, and their family and relatives are the same. So these are the people that were roaming that part of the Bronx. So what did they do? They closed it. They closed the jail. They closed the one in Brooklyn, because it was in Brooklyn Heights, which is a nice area. Still is a nice, affluent area, because they were doing the same thing in Brooklyn Heights. So, and they start disrupting Queens Boulevard and the jail that was in Queens House of Detention. So it was a great thought, great idea. Centralize all the criminals that commit crimes and put them on an island. And they did. They put them on Rikers Island. So now they're saying it's a terrible place. So I think my guest is calling in now. So are you on the air? Okay.
Have your guest call back.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, I'm trying to have my guest call back. This is going to be an interesting show. I am calling my guest, by the way, because I'm trying to get him to call back, and I don't know what's going on. And the studio is telling me call him back, and I am trying to call him back, and they're right. And I really, he's just an important guest, and I don't want to miss him. And by the way, my guest you've seen on Hannity, you've seen him on Tucker, the Ingram, Laura Ingram. You've seen him on so many different talk shows, and it was I was glad to be able to grab him, and I'm still trying to grab him, And I really, folks, I don't know what's going on, and I am trying to call him. And look, I'm on the air now, trying to reach him. I don't know if he can hear me, but I don't know. But he's calling me, trying to get on. Jason, my chief engineer, I don't know. Do we have a problem with our phone system here or something? Is I really okay. So I'm going to just continue what I'm talking about, because some of these things that okay. Now the people.
You can write down his number. I'll give him a call.
Okay. Hang on, folks. Yes, I'm going to try to call my guest so he can call in. I just, once in a while this happens. It does happen in radio. It happens in television, and it can happen, and it's happening right now. So you're watching it. You're watching it live. You're going to watch it tonight on the YouTube. So and right now I'm live on Facebook, and if you could see me on the screen, I'm turning red. Because that's not Strong Island Radio or Strong Island TV at Paradise Studio. It's me turning red because, believe me, I am a little embarrassed. In fact, I'm a lot embarrassed trying to reach my guest. And he's trying to reach me, and I'm trying to reach him. And I really, again, really don't know what happened. So... But anyway, so I'm going to keep talking about what I was talking about, because I am angry about these do-gooders and liberals. They keep yelling, "Close Rikers Island," because it's inhuman conditions. But what do you want to do with people that do inhuman things to other people? What do we do with them? So,
here?
I think my guest is on the line now.
Hello?
Yes. Hello, this is Lou Telano from StreetWise.
Hi. Delroy Murdock, how are you?
My nickname was Tonto years ago, and now I'm all red because I'm really talking to my audience, and I'm a little embarrassed now. And they understand that we were just having some technical difficulties.
A little trouble getting the lines connected here, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, well that's what I was saying. Things happen.
It is the 21st century, after all.
Absolutely. So, but folks, I'm sorry you missed the intro, my guest, but I want to tell you who my guest is, folks. He's you've seen him on pretty much on all the talk shows, but he's a great political analysis. He's a Fox News contributor. He's with the contributing editor with the National Review. It's a pleasure to introduce. I'm going to reintroduce him because I mentioned his name before. Delroy Murdock. Delroy, welcome to Streetwise.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to try to see if we can get the volume a little higher here in the studio. All right. Okay. So your question to me was, and I'm going to say it on the air, right after the show is over, folks, you can catch the show. You can also catch the embarrassing moments of mine before I introduce my great guest on the YouTube. We're live right now on Facebook, Delroy Murdock. And I just want to say a couple of things, Delroy, and then you run with it,
Okay.
We're going to talk about something new, something that nobody's talked about for quite a while, that we haven't heard for quite a while. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. So, anyway.
A very esoteric topic indeed.
Absolutely. It is, and you're a great analysis and expert on it. But in tonight's show, you touched on it on other shows. I want to talk about the allegations of racism towards Donald Trump. But before you answer, I just we do know right now while we're speaking, Donald Trump has 40%. Correct me if I'm wrong. Of the it seems like the African American support. We know about. We've been saying it over and over again. How there's the lowest unemployment for African Americans in years. But a couple of things that are important that to me, and I talked about, I know you spoke about it, and when I had Alveda King, Martin Luther King Jr., niece on my show, and Donald Trump doesn't get credit for this. After I mentioned that, you could run with it and run with anything else that Donald Trump has achieved, and he has achieved a lot, is that we had an African-American president, folks, which you know, and we had him 2 times. And we had Bush and we had Clinton. It took Donald Trump to make Dr. Martin Luther King's Jr. burial site a national historic site. He's done so much, and but we're not talking about the good things Troy, what Donald Trump has done and what he achieved, and 90% of the press are not disclosing it. Plus, they're against him. From where you sit, what's going on?
Well, what I think you have going on this issue, Lou, is an ongoing cover-up on the part of the so-called mainstream media, liberal media, when it comes to the good things that President Trump has done for blacks, for Hispanics, for Jews, etc. He repeatedly does things, some of them just as a matter of happenstance because of his overall policy proposals, but some specific things that he's done that are very much of a benefit to those populations, demographic groups, whatever you want to say. And the media do the very best job they can of keeping this quiet because they don't want people to hear about this. So, for example, you mentioned the unemployment rate for black Americans. Currently, I believe it's 5.5. I don't have the numbers in front of me just a second, but that is the lowest figure in American history, lowest number ever. Same for Hispanic unemployment. Black poverty and Hispanic poverty are at their lowest levels ever recorded, while at the same time the overall unemployment level is 5.5%, which is, 3.5%, which is the lowest we've had in this country, I believe, since 1969, lowest in 50 years. You don't hear very much about these very positive black figures. This is, of course, part of the overall benefit of lower taxes and deregulation and the pro-market stances he's taken. As for specific things he's done, for example, he gave a 30-minute speech about a month ago at the Historically Black Colleges and Universities Conference in Washington, D.C. He pointed out that he opened up an office, I think in his first month as president, opened an office in the White House to offer whatever help it could to the 101 historically black colleges and universities in America, like Howard University, Spelman, Morehouse, and others. These schools begged Obama for 8 years and said, Mr. Obama, would you please let our students use Pell Grants for summer school. A lot of these kids at these schools, for whatever reason, go to summer school. Pell Grants normally were only available for the fall and spring semesters. And so they begged Obama, please make them applicable to summer school. Yeah. Obama didn't do a thing about it for 8 years. In under 2 years, President Trump, in fact, said, fine, you want them for summer school, you got them, which is a huge benefit to kids at historically black colleges and universities. There are several historically black colleges and universities in the New Orleans area which were devastated by Hurricane Katrina. He basically waved a magic wand and their debt to the federal government went away. That's a huge benefit to them to help them get back on their feet. They're still suffering since Hurricane Katrina. And there's been a real effort on the part of the president to get NASA to recruit among those schools for kids interested in careers in space exploration. He worked with several corporations to get them to offer apprenticeships to kids at those schools. None of that was covered by the nightly news programs that evening. Absolutely zero. No mention of this whatsoever. Then you move on to the area of criminal justice reform. Yeah. You've heard even groups on the left, like Black Lives Matter, complain about mass incarceration. They begged Obama to do something about this. He didn't do a thing about this. And guess what happened? President Trump, in I think December of last year, just before the end of around Christmas time or so, signed the First Step Act designed to help a lot of these folks who've been locked up for nonviolent drug-related crimes. Not all of them black, but a disproportionate number of them black. Get out of prison if they've been nonviolent, go back home and try to get their lives back together. That's been a huge benefit to a lot of black folks who've been locked up, as I say, many of them for nonviolent offenses, and they're going back to their communities and trying to get their lives back together. If President Trump were a racist, he would not make any effort. He wouldn't lift a pinky to help black people in prison. And these are the sorts of things that have gone on. You mentioned the Martin Luther King, his burial site. Yeah. 8 years, Obama could have made it a national monument, a national historical place. Yeah. He didn't do that. President Trump did. He also signed a pardon for Jack Johnson, the black boxer who in
Yes.
1905 was wrapped up in a very elaborate case involving white women and sexual allegations and all this stuff. He pardoned him. Again, Obama had 8 years to do that. He couldn't be bothered. So over and over and over and over again, and there are other examples. You've seen school choice. School choice. He's been wonderful about talking about school choice and increasing school choice options for Americans, many of whom were black parents who wish their kids actually could get educated. These are the sorts of things that Donald J. Trump has done for black Americans. The left-wing media don't want people to hear about this because they just want to say he's a racist, he's a Klansman, he's probably a Nazi. Some people say worse than Hitler. And we talk about this sort of thing, and you present these facts, you talk about these actual policies that he has pursued, those lies begin to crumble. So rather than let the lies crumble and let the truth emerge, what the left-wing media do is report on other stories like kids who get lunch-shamed, husband and wife who are climbing mountains up in one in the other side of the planet, one on this side of the planet. The NBC Nightly News did a story. Rather than cover any of the things I'm talking to you about, they did a 2.5-minute story on the 25th anniversary of the movie The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
So they'll do anything and cover any other story rather than spend any time to give the President of the United States any credit or even just a brief mention in passing about any of this sort of stuff. I think it's shameful. They know exactly what they're doing. And by not giving people a sense that, okay, this president is in fact trying to give a fair shot to black folks, they'd rather have people think that he's a Klansman, he hates our country, and that leads to more hatred, tension, social strife, and division, and the mainstream media are doing their very best to tear this country in half. They should be deeply ashamed of themselves and deeply ashamed of the media malpractice which they engage on a daily basis.
But Delroy, why are they doing that? What gain are they going to get? Like we talked about, 90% of the press in regard to Donald Trump is negative, and they won't disclose any of the things that you touched on, which is so many in the short time that he's been in office. So what is their motive? Do they want it? Are they looking to destroy this country? Are they looking to incite a civil war? It's mind-boggling. These are not stupid people. And yet, for some reason, they are holding back the good things, and it's just negativity. Is it power? Is it money? It's just hard to touch on it.
They know exactly what they're doing. These aren't people who are, high school kids who don't know very much about journalism. These are people with degrees in journalism, college graduates. Some of them have master's degrees. Some of them probably have PhDs. They know exactly and deliberately. They know exactly what they're doing. And they're doing it deliberately and advisedly. And the reason they hate Donald J. Trump's guts, they hate him with a passion and uncontrolled rage. I think a lot of them, frankly, very very specifically wish he were dead. I think if he passed away, I think these people would do cartwheels. I really sincerely believe that. And they don't want to see him reelected. They want to see him either defeated at the polls next November, or even sooner than that, removed from office, impeached, or whatever the case is. And they don't want to. They want to give him as little credit and as little positive news as they can, so that they can get the American people turned against him and get him out of office. There was a study, I believe Harvard has done a study, taking a look at the coverage he gets, and it's something like I think the stories on him are like 92% negative.
Yep.
Now, I can understand. I'm not expecting the NBC Nightly News and World News Tonight to be cheerleaders waving pom-poms. 50-50 might be too much to ask, but you think, okay, 60-40, 70-30, 75-25. No, it's like 90-10. 90% of what they cover about this president is negative. 10% of it is positive or neutral. That is, those are the kind of odds you'd expect coming out of the Democrat National Committee or out of Nancy Pelosi's office. And the left-wing media basically become offshoots of the House and Senate Democrat cloakrooms in the Democrat National Committee. They want this man defeated, and they will do everything they can to accentuate and exaggerate the bad news. First of all, cover up any of the good news, accentuate the negative news, and then even go beyond that and invent things out of whole cloth, fabricate things, just come up with stuff that just is invented as Thomas Edison's light bulb. This happened the very first day he was in office. The very first day he went into the Oval Office after the inaugural parade. This is January 20th, 2017. Time Magazine's reporter put out a story saying that President Trump had removed the bust of Dr. Martin Luther King from the Oval Office. No such thing happened. Now, he did retract the story. He apologized, to his credit. But any other journalist would have said, gee, that's interesting. Madam Press Secretary, I guess was Mr. Press Secretary at the time, please explain why is the bust of MLK missing? And the press secretary would say, no, it's not missing. It's right here. Take a look. And the story wouldn't have run. Instead, okay, MLK bust is missing. This proves he's a Klansman. Let's run out with that story. It exploded in Time Magazine's face, and they had to back down. That was on his first day in office.
Right.
So they've had the machetes out from this man from when he had his hand on the Bible and said, "So help me God," and even before that. And it hasn't stopped. It's just getting worse. And I, as a journalist, am disgusted with what I see on a daily basis. I see them breaking basic rules of journalism that I learned in high school, on my high school paper, probably even on my junior high school paper. I've seen 8th and 9th graders write more credible stories than what I see coming out of the so-called mainstream papers or paper record and so on.
But I like what you said, Delroy, on other shows, is that because of this and what they're doing, they're going to destroy themselves. Can you articulate what in regard to when you said that who we know who they are, the news media and the Democratic politicians? I'm hoping you're correct, and I shouldn't say I'm hoping. I believe you are. They are going to. It only is going to hurt themselves in the short run.
Correct. Yeah, the way I described it is that the so many in the media, not everybody, there are some exceptions, but boy, it's most of them these days. They behave like jihadists. They behave like people with suicide vests on, and like somebody with ISIS or Al Qaeda or Hamas, whatever it is. They're so filled with hate that they will blow themselves up and destroy themselves in order to take out the target of their hatred. And this is what we see the media doing today. They're so completely enraged and embittered and hateful of Donald J. Trump that they're destroying themselves in an effort to take him out. And so you see, for example, the media run out and say, "Oh, Michael Cohen, his attorney." There was an effort by Trump to get Michael Cohen to engage in perjury. Well, no, that didn't happen. And then we had Brian Ross at ABC News rush out with a story that Michael Flynn, the former NSC chief, was talking to the Russians and other foreign people before the election. And then it turned out, oops, sorry, it was actually after the election, which is exactly what you want the incoming NSC chief to do, to talk to foreign leaders so that he has rapport with them as of the first day in office. So he got that completely wrong. He basically got fired from ABC from that. And on it goes, and you see these people making these errors on all sorts of stories. They had one just about 2 weeks ago when this whole Ukraine nonsense started. They came out with a story in the Washington Post that, the Director of National Intelligence threatened to resign over this. About an hour later, he put out a statement saying, not only did I not threaten to resign over this, I've never threatened to resign over anything. I'm not a quitter, and I don't intend to quit now. They blew that too. So anything they hear that they think will hurt the president, they rush to print. They turn on the printing presses, hit send on their articles, put the broadcast waves through the transmission towers, and run with this stuff literally at the speed of light. When you're talking about broadcast, literally at the speed of light, before they sit down and check any facts, find out if anything is true. It's really vulgar and disgusting, and is tearing this country to pieces.
Well, he was right from day one when he coined the phrase "fake news," and it is so real. It's just he was right on target when he said that, because. And I have to believe because of the fake news, and they're going to destroy themselves. And they have the election is next year. We got a lot of time, and people are getting fed up. They just keep the same. They're regurgitating the same exaggeration, and they, for example, Adam Schiff, which we know he's heading this impeachment hearing committee. He lied to Congress.
Circus is the word
he
looking
lied
for.
to Congress. Why is he locked up for lying to Congress, like you and I would be if we lied before Congress? You and I would be arrested.
Yeah, he read this supposed statement in which President Trump said to the president of Ukraine, "I want you to go back and dig up dirt on Joe Biden, and don't call me, I'll call you when I think you've delivered on my demands." Words this way. He never said anything like that.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Schiff just invented this. He just sat there as in his opening statement in front of the House Intelligence Committee, and just read this supposed statement from Trump, which was not true, and he got caught on it, and he said, "Oh, it was a parody. I was just trying to be funny." There's nothing funny about lying about the President of the United States at the beginning of what is an effort to remove him from office.
Yeah, that's funny.
Few things in public life could be any more deadly serious than that, and I don't think anybody's expecting Adam Schiff to be some sort of a stand-up or in this case, sit-down comedian. So he could have read from the transcript as is, but no, he had to go invent something and pretend that was true. Absolutely appalling, shameful, reprehensible behavior on the part of him and the Democrats and their errand boys and errand girls in the so-called mainstream media.
Yeah, shameful is correct, because where is this evidence that he said he had during the Mueller inquiry or investigation that Adam Schiff said, well, I have all this evidence of collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. Why are we going through this impeachment hearings where it's just produces evidence that he claims he has?
You're right. He said that over and over and over on television and in front of the microphones at press conferences, on network interview programs. He had all this evidence, incontrovertible evidence, that Donald J. Trump engaged in collusion with Russia, et cetera, et cetera. I personally emailed and called his office, I believe, about 5 or 6 times, both emails and telephone calls, saying, I would love to see this evidence. Please send it to me, email it to me, call me and read it to me over the phone, whatever. I got no response. And at one point I said, I'm about to put in this article that I contacted you 5 or 6 times. If you want me not to put that in the article, please get in touch and tell me what this evidence is. Even one piece of evidence, nothing, absolutely zilch. They don't have it. This man sat there and basically lied to the American people over and over and over again, not about what Trump did on the weekend, or does he enjoy a cocktail? No, the deadly serious idea that the President of the United States is actually a KGB agent. This is very, very serious stuff. And in the absence of any evidence of that lie, he went and lied about it over and over again. And then it turned out Robert Mueller, with the help, by the way, of a bunch of very left-wing pro-Hillary Clinton lawyers. He didn't have anybody on his staff who was even remotely neutral, much less positive about Trump. They found nothing. They found no evidence that President Trump or his campaign colluded with Russia after a 2.5-year, $30 million investigation. And after all that, Adam Schiff did not come up with the evidence. He could have said, well, Mueller didn't find it, but here's the stuff I found. No, never did it. Just moved on.
That's right.
Okay, let's move on to Ukraine. Let's just like a snake slipping out of its old skin and leaving the old skin between a couple of rocks and slithering away. That's what Schiff did. He sort of slithered away from the Russiagate skin, and now he's wearing a bright, beautiful, shiny skin that says Ukrainegate. That's probably as fake or even more fake than this Russiagate story, Russiagate hoax.
So I'm trying to figure out what's next now. When this pans out, exactly what happened with the Mueller and the collusion stuff, that country's going to find out it's all garbage. Meanwhile, people are actually saying, and that's why I believe what you're saying is that they're going to destroy themselves. What are they doing for the country? What is the Democratic Congress? I'm going to use that term. What are they doing for Congress except yelling, impeach Donald Trump? That's the only focus. So I don't know how long they can do that.
That's all they're doing. The Democrats regained the majority in the House, saying that they would, the moderates would work with President Trump, and they would work on prescription drug prices. They'd work on something related to guns, and they'd focus on education and helping out old people with health insurance, and on and on and on. They've not done any of that. They have focused completely on impeachment, on hating this president, on endless hearings. And I know that there are people who voted Democrat thinking, okay, let's try to get something accomplished here.
Right.
And these people, I'm sure, are just sorely and deeply and bitterly disappointed that they put their faith in the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party, once again, has nothing to offer but hatred and division and strife. And then, God forbid, if they get into the White House next year, socialism. This is what the Democrat Party is for today. This is not your father's Democrat Party. This is not your mother's Democrat Party.
Definitely not.
This is the party of hardcore left-wing tension and acrimony. And if you look at Antifa and these other people out in the streets, violence and bloodshed. Shameful, shameful, shameful party with it.
It is. The party was hijacked. It was the Democratic Party was hijacked by the left liberals, which wasn't that great, but now the left has been hijacked by, like you just mentioned, this socialism and communism, to be realistic about it. That's where they are. There is no, my parents, and even mine as a kid, my Democratic Party when I was a young fella, because we loved stories about FDR, Harry Truman, the Kennedys. We could keep it going, but that's yesterday, like you said. That is gone. People have to realize that. So
no, it's. I mean, some of these people. There was a debate a couple of months ago where the 10 people, like that time it was probably about 20. It's down to 15 or 18, whatever. They were just repeatedly bashing Obama. So these people to the left of Obama, who was plenty left as it was, compared to these people, Obama is some kind of a moderate, which I never thought I'd say such a thing. And Joe Biden, who has a very, very liberal vote record in the U.S. Senate for his 36 years in the Senate, or whatever it was, he's now considered representing the far right of the Democrat Party.
Right.
I never thought I'd live long enough to see Joe Biden represent the far right of the Democrat Party.
I can say that.
Here we are.
You're going to be around quite a while, but I never thought I'd see it in my time. I've been, obviously, people know I've been around quite a while. And but I want to talk about something that I've seen, and I was there, and this was 1986. Delroy Murdock. 1986, I was pretty much, for some reason, involved in politics. And I was with former Mayor Ed Koch during those years. And I think about 1986, 1985. And I was privileged to be standing by a conversation that Donald Trump was having with, at that time, Mayor Ed Koch. And they were talking about the woman skating rink in Central Park, and you're a New York guy, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And and there was a budget for $4.7 million, and they went way above it. Went into $12 million. That was the result of the people that Ed Koch had hired as commissioners. So, and he couldn't open the park. This rink in Central Park, women's. But people don't realize, I was standing right there, and Donald Trump, that's since 1986, he never thought about it's going to be president 15, 20 years from that point. He said to Ed Koch, Ed, where are these kids going to go from Spanish Harlem if we don't have that skating rink? And I tell people, I will take a polygraph to say what Donald Trump, I'm quoting Donald Trump, where these kids from Spanish Harlem going to go? This is where they go. This is they stay out of trouble. They come to the skating rink in Central Park. He said to Ed, get it done and give me the check. And I'm going to say this over and over again. This was 1986, and that's what Donald Trump said to Ed Koch, and that's why I'm shocked, probably more than you, when they call this guy a racist. You know, I've seen it. I was there. And I'll mention as much as I can, and I do. And I love to tell that story because here's a guy who's a multi-millionaire or billionaire, whatever, and he's concerned about kids in Spanish Harlem and African-American Harlem at that time, Delroy. So I love to tell that story because I was standing right there.
He very easily could have avoided that issue and said, hey, Ed, let's go to the Four Seasons and have a lovely lunch and talk about art and music and the opera or whatever, and not worry about the kids in Spanish Harlem or the black kids in Harlem or whatever. Not even break a sweat about that. And in fact, from what you're telling me, he was concerned about that enough to fix Woolman Rink, which is, you say the government was in charge and couldn't get it together. He took it over in a matter of months, was able to get the thing up and running.
Yeah.
How about that? And he was, as you well know, he was on the front page of the New York Post pretty much like once a week when he was here before he became president.
Right.
Then he had The Apprentice for, I think it was 12 years or so, correct, on NBC, number one or number
they loved
2 or 3 show in the country. This is a man who had cameras and microphones in his face nonstop for the better part of 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay? If this guy were a racist, somebody would have caught him dropping the N-word or calling some Hispanic person an inappropriate name or using ugly language about Jews or something like that.
Very true.
And it would have been in the press, and they would have said, oh, my God, Donald Trump, look what he just said. Oh, he just dissed somebody, or he said something inappropriate or whatever. This never came out. All this time, this guy was living under the biggest microscopes in the country, which is the members of the New York City Press Corps. And nobody ever reported anything. He was a fun guy. They loved having him on TV. They loved having him on the front page of the New York Post and the other tabloids, not just the Post, but the other tabloids. And then every night on The Apprentice, once a week, I should say, on The Apprentice for a dozen years or something like this, with TV crews following him around and his staff and the makeup people and the sound people and the lighting people and on and on and on. And nobody ever said anything about him being a racist until he runs for president. All of a sudden, oh my God, this guy's a racist. He's David Duke with a red tie. Extraordinary. And the only reason I say that is because that's other than calling somebody a murderer or a rapist, the worst thing you can call somebody is a racist. And so they've been throwing that at him nonstop for about 3 years now, going on 4.
Yeah, but it's a shame because the people that actually loved him or liked him or respected him prior to him running for president, these same people dislike him. It's just I've never seen it. The hatred, and you really touch on it. If God forbid, if he died, they would celebrate. It's just
I have no doubt that would happen.
It's
no
just
doubt.
It is such a hatred, and I don't know. It's worse than cancer because they all have it.
I will tell you that as a conservative as I am, and as I'm sure you are, we had very little good to say about Obama for 8 years. He did a lot of things in terms of policy, which I hated, Obamacare and the Iran nuke deal and all kinds of spending and ridiculous programs. But never once in 8 years did I ever see anybody do any depiction. I can't remember one time of a depiction of Obama with his head chopped off. Conversely, I've seen over and over and over again. I have a PowerPoint where I show this. I've got probably a dozen examples of artists, and usually people who are pretty established in the art world, with these paintings and doctored photographs and cartoons and so forth, even a mural down in California with Donald Trump's head chopped off. There's sort of like a decapitation chic where they show the President of the United States with his head severed from his shoulders, not once or twice, but over and over and over and over. And these fantasies these people have about killing the president, cutting off his head. Academy Award-winning actor Robert De Niro saying over, I want to go punch this guy in the face. Cory Booker saying, I want to hit this guy in the face.
I know.
What's his name? Biden the other day saying, I want to beat him like a drum. I mean, and they always say, oh, he's such a bully. He's so mean. And yet you've got the left over and over and over again depicting the man being decapitated with his head chopped off. Nobody on the right ever did anything like that vis-a-vis Obama for 8 years. This guy's only been there less than 3, and repeatedly we see these depictions of him being shot, head removed. The New Yorker. I mean, this is one of the most esteemed and respected publications in the English-speaking world. They had a cover story, a cover illustration rather, of Trump coming down the staircase. He's fallen flat on his face. It's actually fairly clever, and his red tie is sticking out in front of him, so it looks like his head is bleeding.
Right.
Unbelievable. And this is not some little, wacky student publication. This is the New Yorker magazine on its cover. Well, it doesn't get any more establishment than that. And I see this sort of thing over and over and over again.
Didn't the Congresswoman just say he should get the electric chair?
Yes. I think it was
Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters. Yeah.
Somebody else.
He should get the
solitary confinement, but somebody did say the electric chair.
It's just he should get the electric chair. If anyone did that to any other president years ago, the Secret Service will be knocking on your door.
The Secret Service would show up and come talk to you. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
And now what happens? You get probably a TV contract for that.
Yes. It's just. But again, I do believe what you said about they're going to destroy themselves, and that happens, and history does show that. And I don't know what they can do next. What are you hoping to see, Delroy Murdock, from this point on, as far as what's going on in this country and even other countries?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. The thing I want to see most immediately is related to this business going on in Syria, with Turkey and all that. I think the most urgent thing the President of the United States can do right now is figure out some way of isolating, containing, and liquidating the ISIS prisoners.
Yes.
I am terrified that something like 900 of these guys escaped yesterday, and these people are from the Middle East, but they're also from France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, some from the United States. And my absolutely morbid fear is these people are going to get on planes, fly to the capitals of Western Europe, and then before long use the visa waiver program to hop on planes to JFK, LAX, Chicago, San Francisco, whatever it is, and come over here and return to jihad and get the blood spilling in the streets again. To this president's credit, the ISIS caliphate was the size of 2 New Jerseys. He shrunk it down to nothing. It disappeared completely because he unleashed the military and said, go take care of this, with the help of the Kurds, who apparently were turning our backs on them, although now with sanctions with Turkey, maybe we're not. And they've had these ISIS guys in prison, which is great.
Right.
But they can escape from prison. They need to be, I don't know if it's a summary trial and execution or just bring in bombers and flatten them or drones or whatever. They need to be eliminated. These people can't go back from where they came. They can't be re-educated. They can't be rehabilitated. It's like saying, well, we'll just take out half of your cancer and leave the other half in. It'll be fine. No, it's not going to be fine. It's going to grow and kill you. So these people need to be eliminated. This needs to happen in the next probably 48 hours. This is the most urgent, pressing need of the American public policy today.
I'm afraid they're just going to come through the border. They're just going to go. They could just walk over the border.
If they don't fly in, then come in. Land it, take a plane to Mexico City, and start walking.
That's all. That's
to the Mexican government's credit. They have reduced the number of people coming across the border by about 65%. That's great. But these people are very determined, very focused, very tenacious, and God forbid, all you need is one of them to come in on his own and do something like what we saw in San Bernardino with a bunch of people being gunned down. This guy on the West Side Highway who took a truck and drove over a bunch of people who were biking and jogging.
That's right.
I forget the name of the military guy who was at Fort Hood and opened fire and killed, I think it was 13 American GIs.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take too many of these people to create a lot of destruction, mayhem, and bloodshed. So that needs to stop. Coming back home, I think the Ukrainian thing will fall apart. I just saw this afternoon that Adam Schiff said, well, maybe we really don't need to have the whistleblower testify since we have the transcript. Totally different story than we heard a couple of days ago, that the whistleblower was this great national hero, needs to be brought forth, and now they're saying, well, we don't need that person's testimony. So I think this is unraveling. You just had the president of Ukraine last week say that he was not pressured. There was no quid pro quo. He did not feel blackmailed. He said he did not know that the military aid was postponed. He had no idea it was postponed. So not knowing the military aid was postponed, how could he feel the pressure that the left wants us to believe he felt? So I think the facts behind this are coming out. They do not support the idea that Trump did anything wrong. They do support the idea that the president behaved appropriately and correctly on that phone call. I think if that all gets out, the Ukraine story collapses, and the Democrats basically will have taken not one but two cream pies in the face back to back. Yeah. And maybe at that point they'll say, well, we've really, really blown it. We need to do something like pass the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement, focus on other things that are actually going to make lives better for you and me and the people listening to our voices right now. Which
Congress should be doing.
Endless jihad against the United States.
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot to be concerned about, and we need President Trump right now. We need him for the next 6 years, I guess, or close to it.
Maybe about five and change, I guess.
5 and change, And I was talking to some of my board members and with other law enforcement groups that we were trying to get someone to put legislation in. We're so sure that he's going to win by landslide, Donald Trump, is that we're trying to have somebody put in legislation to extend term limits. So.
Well, that would require a constitutional amendment. I think
I know.
You should finish this term and finish the next after that, and come 2024, I think Nikki Haley could make a great president of the United States. I think Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, could make a great president of the United States. So other people can step in, but I believe the President Donald J. Trump should be reelected. I really hope he fixes the situation with Syria and ISIS and all that, which
that's
me. I
don't
think those handled very well.
Yeah, he's got.
And let's continue the economic growth. Let's keep unemployment down at 3.5% and lowest unemployment for blacks, Hispanics, and other folks, and lowest for women in 65 years. That's all good. That's great stuff, and that needs to continue, and if not, accelerate.
Yeah, and just the Wall Street Journal just saw something that was nice. It mentions that the black popular vote is really leaning towards Donald Trump. So.
Well, I don't know if he's going to get 50% of the black vote. I'd be surprised. But what's very important to remember is that it's not important. I've had this conversation with GOP strategists and campaign managers and candidates for many years, and they always say, "Oh, we're never going to win the black vote." Listen, you're not going to win the black vote. You're not going to get 100% of the black vote. You're not going to get 80. You're probably not going to get 50, not even 40. But if you can get 15 to 20% of the black vote,
correct,
it's good night, Irene, for the Democrats. I tell people, Republican candidates and campaign managers and so on, go knock on 10 black doors, 10 doors in a black neighborhood. Expect and stipulate that 8 out of 10 of them will say, "Get off my porch, whitey," if you're white.
Oh.
But if 2 out of 10 say, "Thank you very much for asking, I'll vote for you on Tuesday," you win the election. hands down.
Yeah.
Because if you take 20% of the black vote away from the Democrats, that's just a huge chunk out of their base, and the entire tree falls over.
Yeah.
So that would be the focus. How do we find those 2 out of 10 black folks who will vote Republican, identify them, contact them, thank them for their interest, ask them what they need, ask them what they like, make sure they get to the polls, thank them for that. And you do that, and not just Trump, but Republican candidates win comfortably across the board. I don't know what it's going to take to get them to focus on this, to understand this, and not whine that they're not going to get 100% of the black vote. They don't get 100% of the white evangelical vote, for God's sake. So I don't know why they think they're going to get 100% of the black vote. Focus on the 20%, and beautiful things will follow. I really wish they'd learned that lesson.
Great. Very good. You stayed longer than than I thought you would. I'm glad to have you on this.
Well, I'm enjoying this.
You know, and folks, my guest, of course, is you'll see him on all the other talk shows. He's a great political analysis, which you could just see. Delroy Murdock, thank you for being on StreetWise. And
very much,
folks, to hear that 20%, that's all. Look towards 20% of the African American support. If we get
that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Good talking to you, Delroy Murdock.
Okay. Thanks very much. Take care now.
We'll
Good
talk
night.
to you again, I hope, in the future.
You bet. Bye-bye.
God bless and stay well. Well, I'm glad he came on. He's a great guest. So, and as they say, he tells it like it is. So, and I'm glad to hear that. I got to leave you, folks. There was so much I wanted to talk about, criticizing the city of New York, the people that are running the city of New York, the mayor, Al Sharpton, and the whole thing with Rikers Island, and where crime is down, folks. Do you believe crime is down in New York City? Crime is down, but shootings are up. What is that? Since when the shootings are not a crime, folks? And all these senior citizens that are getting sucker punched, they're making it assault, folks. Don't listen to the stats, even the police department, because they have to. They got to follow orders. It's attempted murder, folks. When you punch an 85-year-old lady in the face, she hits her head on the sidewalk, she gets a fractured skull. You want to call that assault on paper when the guy goes to court. Oh, it's an assault. What's the big deal? Let him out there. Let him low bail or maybe whatever. So they're playing with the crime stats in New York. I want you to know that. And every week now we're giving competition to Baltimore, Detroit, and Chicago. We're going to reach them soon as far as shootings and people being shot, unless we bring back stop and frisk from New York City Police Department, New York City. Folks, good talking to you. I'll see you on Strong Island TV here at Paradise Studio, Lou Telano, and I'll catch you later.